Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Cahill and welcome back to my channel. We need to talk about Camp NaNoWriMo. Is this video a little late in coming considering Camp NaNoWriMo finished almost a week ago now? Probably. Do I care? Not really. Because while the hype of Camp NaNoWriMo might be over, my feelings on it and the things I've taken away from it are still very much real and are still things that I'm trying to figure out. So we're gonna do that here. My goal for April Camp NaNoWriMo 2021 was 50,000 words. That was I'm going to write the entirety of Abingdon House book number 2 with those 50,000 words. And as a little side goal, I wanted to write at least 5,000 words on my new project, Project Mystic, as sort of like a little creative diversion if I got stuck with Abingdon number 2. I got stuck a lot. I'll leave it at that for now because we're going to get into it a little later. In the end, for Camp NaNoWriMo, I wrote 75,016 words, which, yes, it is more than my 50,000 goal that I initially intended to have. I had a feeling that I would write more. I usually do. Usually because in my quest to finish a novel, I always end up needing more words than I initially gave myself in order to finish. I did not finish Abingdon number 2. I did not. My goal was 50,000 for Abingdon 2. I wrote 44,072 words, which meant I wrote a whopping 30,944 words for Project Mystic, which was completely unintended. I did not expect to get so much into the story and into the characters for something that was supposed to be, I'm stuck on Abingdon House, I need words. Let me just quickly write a few hundred words for Project Mystic. Like, no, I wrote more or less the entirety of the first act of Project Mystic during camp. Which is not bad, it's not a terrible thing, it's just that exploded way more than I expected it to, which I'm expecting it to crash and burn soon, let's just say that. Breaking it down even further, my best day word count wise was of course Friday the 16th of April, which was when I took part in Kate Kavanagh's 24-hour write-a-thon. I wrote 10,464 words on the 16th. 11,824 total for the entire 24 hours. My worst day was the 19th, which was of course a couple of days after the 24-hour write-a-thon, in which I wrote 20 words on the 18th. And I didn't actually write on the 19th at all. I logged it as one word because I want to keep a streak on the Camp Nano website. I did no writing at all that day, but I logged the one word. I'm not surprised, it was expected. I knew that I would have trouble writing after the write-a-thon. So all in all, Camp NaNoWriMo went quite well for me in regards to word count and my productivity. But I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit annoyed at myself and frustrated at myself and a little bit put off about the fact that I didn't actually finish Abingdon 2. And of course, part of that reason is because of my whole crazy plan to write the entire series, or at least the 4 remaining books this year, in order to finish like a 0 draft of it all. But also because that's never happened to me before. Never in the history of me writing a book have I struggled so much to get one written. It feels weird. And for someone who has written multiple first drafts and revised multiple times those first drafts, and it feels very odd to suddenly have this struggle to, I don't know how to explain it, it's really weird. Okay, so here's how it went, right? I have a basic plan for the entire Abingdon House series, all 5 books, and we've done the first book in NaNoWriMo in 2020, and I've already revised that to a second draft. That was fine. That had a nice clear plot. I went with it. It was good. Book 2, and I've been saying from the beginning that there's something with book 2 that wasn't quite right with me, or the way that I wanted to go about doing it. I didn't think it would work, and I proved myself right with this. because it has such a long timeline, it needs to span 8 months in order for me to showcase everything I need to showcase for world building and character and magic purposes. It needs to span 8 months. And the issue that they face in the book, the major plot issue, isn't something that they can resolve until obviously the 3rd act. But with an 8-month timeline, that means that it takes them 8 months to figure out and resolve this plot point, obviously. So that's a massive issue in, you know, timeline wise. What am I going to get to fill these rest of these 8 months? That's not just research or frustration that they can't sort this out now and things getting worse, but not too worse, because, you know, I need the tension to sort of build throughout the book. But I also sort of need to retain some form of urgency, but then not act upon that urgency. It's a whole big thing in my head. Like, I thought I could make it work, and I just couldn't make it work. There's something about it was, and I don't know what was the issue. I don't know what it is. It's been chucked at my CP, so they're gonna take a look at it for me, and we'll see what they say. Obviously, this is before I do my eventual, not looking forward to doing it, read through before I start re-outlining it again. And we started off really strong. I thought I would struggle starting this story. The first few chapters were great. It was good. We were going along perfectly fine. We were explaining all the magic. We were putting in all of the different plot elements that I had. The main plot, which is the magic of Abingdon House, is fading, which is the issue they can't solve until the end. We had a couple of issues for the protagonist to face in the meantime, and I wanted it to be this whole sort of growing sense of stress, anxiety and frustration about the fact that Hazel, the protagonist, couldn't fix this issue straight away, and she's being pulled in so many directions as the head of Abingdon House, and she doesn't have time for her friends, and she's got too much work to do and too much to think about, and all of this stuff I wanted to sort of help increase the tension. And meanwhile, you know, the magic is fading and things are getting worse, and she's getting more and more frustrated because she can't fix the thing, and everything she tries to do fails, and things just get worse with all of her relationships at the same time. Like, I had a plan, and it's a plan that I feel works in my head, especially for middle grade. They're 13 to 14 in this book. And I thought that was very relatable. Like, I guess for 13 to 14 year olds, not that I know any 13 to 14 year olds. In my head, it works. On paper, I couldn't make it work. And now, of course, you know, first drafts are supposed to be crap. They're supposed to be messy. They're not supposed to be perfect. They are the foundations on which to build everything else. They are the recipe for a cake that you want to make, right? But there's something about this first draft, which is now officially a 0 draft, because I did not write the final 3 chapters of this book. I struggled through Act 2. I thought once I get to Act 3, yeah, we're gonna get it, we're gonna go for it. No. I think one chapter ended up being about 800 words. Another chapter ended up being about 500 words. And then a third chapter was like 600 words. And then the last 3 chapters, I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't write it. I have no motivation to write it because I was very upset and annoyed that I'd struggled throughout the entire month to write this book. And I was like, no, Ray can't handle it. So it's officially a 0 draft because the last 3 chapters are basically a very basic outline of what is supposed to happen in those chapters. And I gave it to someone to read. Oh, I feel bad, but you know, the earlier I get an outside view, the easier it's going to be for me to sort of figure it out and get it re-outlined. So, yeah. we had a tough time with Abingdon number 2. I very seriously overestimated my ability to be able to write this book as easily as I wrote Abingdon number 1. I wrote that in 7 days, and I found it rather easy to write. And I'm trying to sort of pinpoint why it was so difficult to write. It's not the first time I've written a sequel to one of my novels before. Back when I was writing Nephilim, which was a 4-book series, I wrote the sequel to Nephilim, and I wrote that rather easily as well. And I'm not sure what it is, and it's something I'll have to sit and ruminate about and really sort of try and get to the bottom of. Why was this such a difficult thing for me to do? And it's not going to be anything like, oh, there was pressure, oh, there was a deadline, because I'm very, very well versed in camp and in NaNoWriMo. It's where I do all of my first drafts. Apart from Project Mystic, which I'm doing right now, which is going to carry on outside of camp or any sort of NaNoWriMo. And I think book 4, I need to sort of, on my personal timeline, to write the entire series. That needs to be written between Camp Nano in July and NaNoWriMo in November, which is where I'll write the final book. I have always written my first drafts in a NaNoWriMo month because I like the deadline, because I know it will make me finish the book, and I know it will not make me care about the quality, because I've struggled in the past with finishing because I just procrastinate and don't do the work. NaNoWriMo solves that for me. I think one of the reasons was how I outlined in the first place. I used Katie Tastic's 3-act, 9-blocked, 27-chapter method, and I'm not saying it's a bad method. That's what I used for Project Mystic. I'm sailing through that. But I think for a middle grade, for a sequel, that specific outlining method with this sort of specific 27 chapters, and each chapter is very focused on a specific thing happening in regards to pacing and the overall plot arc. I think that sort of forced me to put things in places where they probably didn't need to be, or they probably didn't deserve to be, or had to come up with things to put in those places because I couldn't focus on the main plot until Act 3. And obviously I'm not saying that Katie Tastic's method is not a bad method. It is extremely helpful. This possibly was not the right book or the right plot to be using that method with. And I think also because I used that method, because it was technically chapter by chapter, I did not put as much detail or thought into what happens within those chapters, which was also a little bit of my downfall. And yeah, something about the plot, even though it works in my head, something about that doesn't quite translate properly onto the page. And then we'll add in the timeline as well, because that also might be an element to everything not working quite as well as it should. I know long timelines can work. I want to make it work. Somehow it has to work, because I don't want Abingdon House to just be a 2-week snapshot of Hazel's life as she grows up over the 5 years that the book takes place. You know, I want to see her life, sort of, you know. I want most of the books, except the first, which is 2 weeks, to have a very good length of time so we can sort of see her grow. In that respect, if you sort of know what I mean, like middle grade kids go through so much. Like 2 weeks just doesn't quite cut it. You miss a lot of character development, and you miss a lot of, you know, human development which happens over those years. So the more I can put in, I think would be very, very beneficial for, you know, middle graders. Doesn't mean you can't have a middle grade book, obviously, that takes place over 2 weeks. I'm just saying, I personally would like it to be a little bit more broad spectrum, so I can add in more details and more character. I don't quite know what this video has devolved into. I've just been talking and ranting now at Abingdon House, and I completely forgot what I was going for. Struggle. Everyone struggles as a writer, basically. Everyone struggles as a writer, and just because you've been writing for a long time doesn't mean that you are exempt from that struggle. You know, it happens, and sometimes it happens a little bit and sometimes it happens a lot, and there's nothing wrong with struggling. I like to think of struggle as a learning opportunity, much like mistakes. Something went wrong which caused me to struggle with Abingdon House 2. So now, after going off and to sit and reflect, I'm going to be able to figure out what it was that went wrong, how that relates to me and my ins and outs and process of being a writer, and something I can fix in the future so I don't have this trouble again, because I cannot struggle like this throughout all 3 of the rest of the books for Abingdon that I have to write this year in order for me to finish. I can't have that, because, you know, the worst state my first draft or my 0 draft is in, the more work I'm going to have to put into making it better, which means the less time I'll have to work on the next book in the series. And why am I doing this to myself? Why am I writing 5 books in 1 year? Okay, sure. I like a challenge. I work best with challenges, and this year, this is my challenge. The fact that I have struggled is just going to push me in a new direction and go back to old habits or old ways of doing things, try something new to avoid the struggle in the first place. I honestly, seriously don't know where this video ended up. Yay, I won camp, woohoo, I struggled with Abingdon too. Oh God. But it's okay, because it's something I can learn from. I think that's what I covered in this video, which I'm going to stop here because now I don't know what I'm doing. Let me know down in the comments below, have you ever struggled writing one of your novels? What is it that you did that helped you get back on track? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Good thoughts and happy writing.